And we are live, guys. There's carnage in the market, and we have a decimated team today. James, how are you doing?
Good. Yeah, we have disruptions across the board, but you and I will always be here, and that's what's important.
Exactly.
We make it happen.
Like in the old days.
Like old times. Exactly. Either way, we are here for the community, and we are going to make it happen. And the markets are carnage. We'll break all that down, but it's not like it's a surprise. The signs were there for quite some time, and some of the new leadership, like Scott Bessent and others, have said in pretty clear terms what their plan is, and we'll get into that too. So over to you. I'm just looking at some charts, seeing if anything is surviving right now today, and there is a glimmer of hope, as well as complete carnage across the board. So
it is indeed. We will cover a lot. I think the big news of the day is the Saylor announcement, and I'm really looking forward, James, to hearing your take on it. Then we have Marty. Hey, Marty, welcome.
Hey guys, what's up? Daylight savings. I'm an hour behind. I thought I'm an hour late.
Exactly. That's why it's brighter outside here. So that's great. Then we will talk about the Bitcoin dump. I think there is a clear explanation, and we'll dive into it, and a lot of related topics. We will talk about the strategic Bitcoin reserve and what we think. Will they buy more or not? Talk about bank custody, and we'll talk about altcoins. There is so much to unpack today, and I think a lot of people, the top of the mind question is if the top is in, or is the bottom in, or what is happening here. Of course, we don't have any crystal ball either. We'll do our best to understand what's going on. And I thought we hand right over to James, if this one is working. Okay, actually, technical issue immediately. No.
Technical issue immediately.
X was down for me here just before.
Wow, I saw this. This was crazy.
So, but now it's back. So, James, what does this mean? 21 billion is a lot of money.
It's monstrous. I spend a lot of my time looking at this company. At 21 billion, he did 21 plus 21. That was initially ATM plus convertible debt. Now he's doing a new 21, and it's no surprise. Bitcoin, 21 million coins, etc. 21 billion raise. What is cool about this is a lot of people are confused. It's like, what is a preferred stock? Well, the good news about that is it doesn't dilute the existing shareholders, which is great. It's offering an 8% coupon. So what people like, typical investors like us, we don't invest in dividend stocks or things like that, but there's a huge series of industries that do. Lots of traditional financial institutions, insurance companies, pension funds, they love that 8%. And 8% is typically double what you get anywhere else or more. So the coupon is huge, which means it's going to make all the other dividend payers, all the other preferred stocks look really weak. It's also convertible if Bitcoin does its thing over time. But really breaking down what this means is that 21 billion, if you divided it by the Bitcoin price today, I can't remember what it is, like 270,000 Bitcoin that he will buy. And remember, 164,000 is all that will be mined this year. So if he does this, he will do it pretty fast. Typically, it'll be done in 3 months or so. And he'll buy up the entire year's supply. And he's just one player. So I think this is super interesting. It does provide somewhat of a backstop. He has been kind of the only buyer for the last couple of weeks. The ETFs have dried up a little bit. But this is how markets work, everybody. Things run in cycles. Things go from being very overbought to now very oversold. And I covered it yesterday in my video. This is a classic Bitcoin drawdown. It's also could be construed as a bear trap in typical markets. So it's as if the psychology of markets comes into play. and it waits until people are completely lost their minds and they pull the plug and they capitulate and they leave and they go back to mutual funds or something. So this could be a classic bear trap that forces holders to capitulate, and then the whales come in and buy everything. Right now, let's see how we are doing. We've been hovering just under that 80K level, 79.6. So
Yeah.
the question, the other bad news is I don't see any catalyst on the horizon apart from this right now to take us higher. So that's the bad news.
Do you think he can pull it off? Do you think he can take in this money?
Absolutely, yes. So that whole preferred market of dividend paying stocks, you get insurance companies, they take in customers, for example, just like banks, they take in money from customers with the promise of paying them back. And they want very safe, very stable ways of generating simple alpha. If they can get 8%, the insurance companies will subscribe all day long to this. No problem at all.
Yeah. Marty, what's your take on this? Do you think Saylor can pull it off?
Yeah, I think so. I think if anybody can do it, he can. I mean, he's never said anything he didn't do before. Makes sense to me. I think he can pull it off. Absolutely. I think the US government's going to do the same thing. I think everyone's doing the same thing. Yeah, I mean, and he does it the best. I think it's great. We'll see how it goes. I just started reading the article, so I'm not 100% clued up on exactly the technical side of it, but it sounds about right. How are you guys doing? Everything good?
Absolutely. I mean, it's tough in the markets. Absolutely. I wanted to show this picture because I feel that this kind of explains what's going on with Bitcoin, because it's, in a way, it's a little bit hard to understand, right? We're having Donald Trump in the White House, like the actual White House account is posting Bitcoin and the strategic Bitcoin reserve and all that stuff. And how can Bitcoin dump in under those conditions? A lot of people asking themselves that. And I think the explanation is very simple. It's this. So the red or purple line here, it's S&P 500, so stocks basically, or it's the mini futures. And as you see here, the bars are Bitcoin, and you can see that it's basically the same chart, except that Bitcoin has held up a little bit better than the stocks during March. And this isn't only from November. It basically goes back all the way to summer last year at exactly the same level. So, of course, timing has been a little different, little higher, little lower, but more or less Bitcoin has followed stocks. And now that stocks topped out here, basically just 1 or 2 days from each other, Bitcoin has followed stocks down. And in fact, it has held up better than the stocks now in March. So I think that this is the beginning and the end of the explanation. It's not so much some evil way manipulation. It's just that the markets follow each other. And that's my take. What do you guys think? Is it coincidence or?
No. And it goes back to what we've covered here a few times. And it's been very clear from a guy called Scott Bessent. They want to talk the market down. They want to crash hard assets like the S&P 500 so they can in turn bring the actual rates down, Fed rates down, long end of the bond. So a little bit of short-term pain to be able to reset, refinance the debt, and then move up from there. So there will be that pain. That's why many of us have been kind of moving to cash gradually for the last few months for this exact reason, ready for this capitulation. And it's going to be, it's painful out there, but sometimes you have to, like we've said before, you got to break a few eggs to make an omelet. And that's exactly what's going on right now. It's much more of a reset of the federal debt and rates before it can move higher. And then that will also, if they bring down the market, maybe 10%, it's already down, 5%, another 5% to go, then they can cut rates and flush the market with liquidity, and then everything goes back up fast.
Yeah, this is a very interesting take on this. Actually, X wasn't working for me here just before the show, so I had to screenshot some pictures. But this is basically what you're saying here.
Yeah.
I felt was well explained by this guy, that the US government has to refinance 7 trillion of debt in the next 6 months, and they don't want to do that at the high yields. So if they can crash the stock market, I'm saying here, but let's explore the theory. If they can crash the stock market, that will pump the bond prices, because people will then run from equities into safe-ish bonds. Then bond prices will go up and yields will come down, and the US government will be able to refinance their debt at the cheap. And not only that, lower bonds yields will push the Feds to do rate cuts, which is bullish for risk on assets. So don't panic short term. So the theory here then is that they want to push yields down. And have they been successful on that? Yes, they have. The yields have really dropped a lot. Let me remove this one. Both 2-year and on the 10-year yield. So that could be like a theory for, if we believe in orchestration of the markets, that would be what's driving it down. And in that case, perhaps they want to continue doing that for a while further. What's your take, Marty? Is this a conspiracy theory, or could it be something behind it?
No, I think we've all known, even before Trump, that something has to break before they'll make monetary policy change, right? So it's always like this every time. 2008 was the mortgage-backed securities. 2007 was different. Was another one. They always got to find something. So I think they're trying to break something, and it looks like it's going to be the bond, the long end tail of the bond, which banks and pension funds are heavily invested in, from 10 to 30. And they're all underwater heavily. I mean, banks are literally bankrupt. The word bankrupt comes from that. Banks are bankrupt. So I think that's where it's going to break. So they're going to try and break the bond market. You can see already today, Europe is in way worse shape. The US 10-year actually turned down just below 410 today. I mean, most of Europe's are way up, and only going up. The gilts and the bunds in Germany are having the biggest problems. So that affects the pension funds. And it's all leading up to them having to come in and say, we're going to save the day, and we're lowering rates finally, which they've been delaying for so long. And we're ending quantitative tightening, and we're moving into quantitative easing. But by that time, the markets will have corrected. There's a lot of things that have to correct in the market, right? To rebalance the market, you have to remove all the long positions. Because there's going to be, everyone moves to cash, and before people go back to cash, they want to make sure the longs are gone, and they're capitulating. So this is all to playbook. This happens every time around. We've been calling it the whole way along. I mean, Bitcoin's been extremely strong over the bullish Trump November 4th news, but they've pretty much taken that whole thing back, their entire move. They took it back on altcoins, and now they're taking it back on Bitcoin, flushing the longs. The max pain is just under 80,000. That's where we are. For altcoins, we're around max pain. If you look at the dominances, they're all pretty much where they've always been. Just the whole market is just coming down. And once all the longs are out and the long exchanges, the derivative exchanges are happy, I think the money will come back in and will rise up after the US, like James says, refinances their debt. Remember, that's the real reason this is happening. Is that the US?
Yeah, so it would be very interesting, because of course it's a fantastic story. I mean, if that is the intention and the playbook, it will probably work great. Also, I suppose from a political perspective, it would be a very nice story to tell that, first we had to clean up the mess, and unfortunately that crashed the markets, but then we sorted it out, and from the bottom, stock market is up, hundreds of percent, and so on and so forth. So I'm sure, that would make sense. And if you're looking at, so if we have the theory that Bitcoin is following equities is kind of following a little bit the playbook of the macro market here, then how low could equities go? I mean, it's very clear that it's kind of rejected here now. I don't think there's any doubt about that. One support is pretty close. If we drop from that, it's much further down. Then we're talking for S&P 500. If this doesn't hold at 5,500, we're down to maybe 4,200 or something. So those are the levels.
Similar drop to that previous one. See there, just go back to 2022 S&P there on your left. How much percent was that move down?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Well, that was COVID. Yeah, that one.
Now I'm on the mini futures. Let me measure it on the actual S&P 500. So
you'll
that
see it's
was
roughly 50%. Just like we always say, they're going to take 50% back of this massive S&P pump.
Yeah,
they can't do 50%. No way.
This is 27%.
50% of the move. 50% of the moves. So I would
the
say
COVID dip was 35%, I think. And right now we're this is only 8%. So it's not much, guys, yet.
Yeah, exactly. I'd say about come down to roughly close to 520, 500 maybe, guys. S&P 500.
Yeah. So I think this is worth following. It's very important, I think, to follow the macro market. Bitcoin isn't only happening in isolation right now. It's definitely a combination of factors here.
The key thing to look at, everybody, as well, is global liquidity and global money supply. Those two are going north fast, and especially with what China is doing. We've reported on for many months now, and also Europe over the last 10 days. The money printers are firing up over there fast. That's one of the reasons why the FX markets are in complete disarray, and the global bond markets as well.
Oh,
the
yeah.
charts that I've been following, guys, if you do a chart of Bitcoin with the NASDAQ futures, I mean, the correlation is ridiculous.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I showed it actually earlier, just before you joined, Marty. So, yeah, definitely. And here we see what you just said also, that the dollar strength index has massively dumped because the euro currencies have strengthened on this message of increased war investment. And maybe we stay out of the politics because it's very infected, but I'm not sure. The US is investing in AI and crypto, and Europe is investing in war. I don't know, one of them is probably going to have better long-term return.
And it's what's also crazy, they're investing in kinetic machinery. I mean, imagine you're an alien and you're looking down on Earth. I mean, we've seen the effectiveness of tanks over the last 4 years, taken out by $100 drones. Why build more tanks? It's complete madness, absolute madness. And shout out to the people in Europe watching us. And I know you and I have very large European audiences, CTO. They don't want this. You saw the protests all over Europe over the weekend. They do not want this.
Yeah, I think at least from a humanitarian perspective, it is not so great. But it's a very infected issue. There are so many topics we can easily spend the whole day talking about this. But that's my take on the Bitcoin explanation for the Bitcoin dump here, is simply following the stocks, which in turn perhaps is following a political playbook here. So that was covering the first 4 points there. What do you guys think about the crypto summit? Will they actually, because some people were disappointed, they felt that they should go out and say we're going to buy Bitcoin now, and then they didn't say that. But they kind of did, right? They said that as long as it doesn't affect the taxpayer money, they are open to investing more. Do you think they will buy more? James, do you want to start?
I do think, a lot of people that are advising the administration do want to buy more, and they've hinted at the ways in which they would do it, basically in a neutral manner that doesn't impact taxpayers. So there's lots of money sitting in many different cupboards all around the government. There's lots of unrealized gains on things like cheese and gold that they could pull from as well. The sky is the limit. An executive order could be written to spend 10 billion on Bitcoin. I think they'll find a way to chip away a little bit. And then we'll just see. But I think The big thing is all of a sudden, it's a rubber stamp of approval on Bitcoin itself. And that should get the attention of other nations around the world. Okay, like the digital Fort Knox was the term that David Sachs used. They're building a digital Fort Knox after a Fort Knox, which is world famous. I think other nations of the 180 countries around the world, a couple will definitely start doing the same thing.
Marty, what do you think? Do you think US will buy more Bitcoin in this reserve?
Yeah, I think. Well, the plan was always the first tranche with 200,000, which they have 199,000 already. David Sachs will go through and see which ones are appropriately held by marshals and the DOJ, and hopefully move them all into one proper US government wallet, which I think will be the real turning point when we see that happen. But then going forward, I think they'll have to use these off-budget approaches, and there's lots of ways they can do taxation via crypto. So if you pay your taxes with Bitcoin, they keep the Bitcoin, and there's lots of ways of doing it.
Do you think they might convert some of the gold?
They've already, that's in the Bitcoin Act, is having the Treasury turn over, gold certificates, convert them into Bitcoin. I don't think it's hard for the government to find ways to buy Bitcoin. The problem is there's no liquidity. So if they turn to QE, look, money is created when the government spends money. That's how money is created. Okay, when you say print money, means the government spends money. Remember, their checkbook never bounces. So they're looking for reasons to spend money. I think this is a great new reason to spend money, and a lot of people are talking about that. Plus, Bitcoin bonds are now a big narrative again. Bitcoin bonds might make another turnaround. So these are just great new reasons for the government to spend money, to print money, and other governments to print money. But for now, I think this year we're looking at now, probably it's going to be David Sachs analyzing. I keep track of all of the seized Bitcoin, and there's some very obscure cases. Who really owns it? Who has the keys? Remember, we crypto people, we know if you don't have the keys, you don't own the crypto. It doesn't matter what you think. Like, where are these keys? So let's let them actually come up with the stockpile and the reserve numbers, manage it into one place, and then see where we are. And then they're probably going to have to backstop the rest somehow, and it's going to be interesting. But the important part to me is, like James says, it just rubber stamps the asset class. It's no longer speculative. And that's why we're seeing repricing, guys. That's what happens when an asset turns from speculative to real. A whole new set of traders enter. Speculators usually leave. And when speculators leave, this is what happens. The market corrects.
And so, I thought like this, like, say that we have the opportunity to convince some more country to follow along, to also create a strategic Bitcoin reserve. How would each of you sum up, why do they need a Bitcoin reserve? If they ask like that, if we have a chance to actually pitch this, why do they need it? James, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'd turn the question around is, why do they have a gold reserve? Why do central banks around the world stack gold?
Why do they reserve? Exactly. At all.
Exactly. That's the same reason. They need to find a way to stop debasement. So money printing is going into high gear once again. Like, we haven't seen this high since 2021, 2022. If you look at the US M2 money supply, it's almost at its peak again of where it was a couple of years ago after the QT quantitative tightening world. So you just have to say, how do I continue to print money, and how can I stop myself from debasing to hell? The answer is allocate to Bitcoin. Like, if anybody, since I think it was a cool chart, it showed you the impact of a 2% allocation to Bitcoin since 2017. Basically, you eliminated 40% of debasement. If you held 98% cash, 2% Bitcoin, you were break even since 2017. And that's a pretty cool way to view it. So that's the way the central banks need to think. Make it real simple for them. Make a little chart in what I just said and say, this is why. That's all they need to know. They bang rocks together for a living.
Like if talking about 32% or something like that, it's It's risk-free. You know, what if, okay, say it doesn't work out. Okay, unfortunate then, 2%. It's like an error.
You're losing 40 anyway in 6 years. So
exactly. So what? Like, but if it actually catches on, then Marty, what would be your argument? You have to convince another country. Why do they need a strategic Bitcoin reserve?
I mean, I just always just look at myself. I mean, why do I have a strategic Bitcoin reserve? Why do you? Yeah, the price is volatile right now, but do you believe in it? Do you believe in the Fed? Do you believe in the 100-year cycle? Do you think that if Doge audits the current stores of value in governments, it would come out with a green check mark? No. The current stores of values are completely broken. Remember, the central banks have no idea about money right now. It's a complete chaos. So no one trusts the Fed. Bitcoin is a hedge against central bank money issuance. And everyone's doing it. I do it for my own personal life. James does it for his life. The US is doing it. You have to do it. And so that's why. So every country is going to do it. Now, how much they allocate is going to change. And, volatility is not good. You know me, I rant 24/7 on my X page about volatility because volatility is artificial in crypto. It's created to correlate with the stock market. People aren't really selling. It's being sold down and forcing them to panic sell. And so we've got to remove the volatility out of Bitcoin. That we've got to do, I believe. It's run by casinos, and that has to change. But apart from that, the fundamentals are the same, and people need to understand that the dollar is the most volatile thing right now, not crypto. Crypto is priced in dollars. Stock is priced in dollars. Everything priced in the US dollar is highly volatile right now because the underlying thing is volatile. This is the dollar moving the stock prices right now. The dollar is losing faith. And if you listen to Scott Bessent, anyone in the new Trump administration, it's about restoring dollar trust. They have the previous administration literally made a joke out of the US dollar. And I think they're trying to restore trust. James can talk on this. And it starts with the bond market, the US bond market. And it moves into, the DXY, controlling the DXY. And then stable coins, a big part about this, injecting digital dollars into the global economy. These are all techniques to stabilize the dollar, to restore faith in the dollar and things. But Bitcoin is a hedge against all of this. What if it doesn't work? What if the central bank collapses? What if money collapses as we know it? Bitcoin is a hedge against that. It's hard money. It doesn't rely on dollars. You must understand the dollar price of Bitcoin is something in your head. It's just because the people
it's
who own
indeed, I
Bitcoin
think that
let's one
exactly.
Bitcoin
I
is
think
one Bitcoin, and always will be. Go ahead.
Exactly. I think so too. I think it's a very strong proposition. Like physical gold has worked for a very long time because it's a hard asset, not so easy to make more of it, or at least it takes proof of work to create more gold. And we live in era digitalis now. Everything is digital. Digital gold has a place in the new world. And I think a lot of countries will end up allocating a small percentage to Bitcoin. I am convinced about that. Let's move on to another.
I came in late. I mean, people are freaking out about prices, but they're not that low. They just took back the Trump pump. Remember, Trump became president on November 4th. Bitcoin was 68,000. It went to 80 to 100. Okay. Altcoins went up. They're just come back to where they were. Remember, the market always restores its dynamics. It wasn't ready for a Trump pump. It's just come back. Don't panic, please. See this as an opportunity. This is what you've been waiting for. Okay. This is when you can actually, new people, new money is coming into our asset class because they can afford to. The prices are down. Carry on.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like huge, but it's only minus 26% from the exact
nothing
top of the top week candle, which is normal for Bitcoin during bull markets. But
And
I
in fact,
wanted to.
remember when Tesla decided to stop taking Bitcoin for vehicles? That was during a bull market. Bitcoin fell 51% on that news.
Yeah,
We're only down
exactly.
half of that. This is normal. This is the bull market trap, because I think right now, when I look at, say, the world, look at our audience, it's very different from 2020, 2021, when everybody was flushed full of cash. That's not the same today. Cash is much tighter than it was back then. AI is here. People have been earning, and yes, they've been getting salary increases, but it hasn't done anything to keep up with debasement. So people are feeling the pinch right now. And that's why, even though we're in a bull market, the pain is more extreme than last time around for those reasons, I believe. I'd like to know what you guys think about that.
Yeah, man, we haven't had quantitative easing since COVID. This has all happened without any new money. This is just the same money circulating around the system. And so things go up, things go down. People are, why did that go up? Why did that go? It's just the same money moving around. Until we have quantitative easing, we don't really know what this market's going to look like. And we're nearly there, guys. James spoke about it already. CTO, I mean, we're nearly there. It just feels like the yield curves are breaking on the long end. Pension funds are starting to cry. When the banks and the pension funds start crying, money will be printed. Trust me.
Yeah, so I think we need to separate the timing from the fundamental events. Otherwise, this becomes impossible to understand. We literally have the most powerful government of the world bull posting on X about Bitcoin and altcoins. We have banks getting the approval to offer Bitcoin and Ether trading services and custodial services in the US, across even in Europe. So we have all this happening. We have the Bitcoin ETF, which seems like a long time ago now, but there's been a lot of money coming into these ETFs. And even though we had outflows here during mid to late February, and a little bit now, the total flows have been incredible into this asset class. So we have that on one side. And then on the other side, if anyone joined late, I just showed previously here that Bitcoin, because I saw there was a lot of comments questions in the comment. Bitcoin has just followed stocks. The purple line here is the stock market. The bars are Bitcoin. And in fact, Bitcoin has held up a little bit better than the stocks relatively compared to its usual movements. So we have to separate the fundamental strength that Bitcoin has taken through these periods with the movements of the stock market, which Bitcoin is following at this point. It's not following gold right now. Here is the gold chart. It does not look the same as the Bitcoin chart. So during this period, Bitcoin has not acted as digital gold. It has acted as a speculative asset. Let me get the right view here. It has acted as a speculative asset similar to the S&P 500, while gold has had a different parabola. I think over time, the fact that gold looking like this, I think it will be beneficial for Bitcoin as well. So that's how I see the state of the market. Should we proceed a little bit? Time is running fast, as always. Let's talk about altcoins as well. I know everyone is very disillusionized. What's the word? Sad.
Disillusioned.
Sad. Yeah. And but this is going to turn around one day, guys. So don't quit. Don't log out forever. Let's try to keep following what is happening so that we take the right decisions when things turn around.
Well, one thing I thought was great about the SBR announcement, and I was very relieved. I was literally quietly terrified that they were going to add XRP and Cardano into that thing. And I'm very happy it's a clean, just Bitcoin only SBR. I think that's worth noting too. And we had a feeling that was going to be the case because the advisors understand the scams that these other two things are. No offense to if you're a bag holder for Cardano or XRP. I just don't see the logic behind them whatsoever. But that was a relief to me. I think that's worth talking about. I don't look at the prices of those things, but I'm sure they fell down since last week, like everything else.
They did indeed. And they kind of backpedaled a little bit on that announcement where they specifically mentioned Cardano and XRP and SOL. And then they backpedaled on that statement and said it was just examples. And as you say, like the actual reserve that is starting now is Bitcoin. So yeah, we will, I guess that was why a lot of people were very upset from some of these communities. And yeah, that's exactly correct, as you say, James. So then on another news, let's talk a bit about the different altcoins. One thing that really stood out to me was this one that I just realized, that one of the altcoin projects, Kronos, they decided to reissue tokens they had burned. And it kind of just shows like, okay, that wasn't very decentralized, was it? You know, if you can decide to do something like that.
No.
Do you think these kind of, I don't know, horrible things, do you think that could spread? That projects start prioritizing shorter term benefits over longer term confidence? Do you think that something like this could happen for, I don't know, Radium or Jupiter that also has a buy and burn program? Or do you think it will stop at these kind of projects?
I think it stops. If you look at these, I always call them utility tokens. I made a video back, one of my first ones in 2021, why to stay away from them all, because they're heavily centralized. The total supply is held by very, very few players. The tokenomics suck. I think the whale distribution for CRO, I think the top 1% owns like 99 million tokens. So nobody buys these things. It's just a complete scam. So be careful of those things. And there's many of them as well. But other names you mentioned, like Jupiter is very transparent, very well adopted, very profitable. And I think they are smart enough to know that if you ever betray the community, they'll be gone. They'll disappear overnight. Just as anybody, I don't think anybody, I guarantee you, there's probably nobody in the audience that owns CRO right now. And if there is, it's perhaps one person. But I don't think Jupiter would follow the same suit. But that is absolute, it's a very, very scummy sign. I don't have any other word to describe it. To unburn your burned tokens. Marty, what do you think?
I mean, I'm speechless. I don't know. I didn't even know how they technically are able to do that. Yeah,
Magic.
because people must understand there are a lot of blockchains that were built to support one business, like an exchange. You got Binance, BNB. Basically, it's just a blockchain to support the Binance ecosystem. You know, you had FTX. You know, they were kind of looking at Solana to do that. There's this thing, CRO. They made their own blockchain to support their own exchange. I'm not a big believer in these things. I think they're perfectly fine. I'm not going to tell people not to own them, but they're not decentralized.
No,
they have like 14 validators.
If you
they have
can
like
do something
10,
like this.
14 validators. They're centralized banking systems using the notion of a blockchain to make some hype. I don't propose to them anyway.
And it's 92% off all-time highs. It's been 1,200 days since that hit that all-time high. I mean, there's no good signs I can see from this actual token at all. And again, remember everybody, 99.5% of all crypto is a scam.
Yep.
Be in the 0.5% of cryptos, or even less than that, actually, in this day and age.
Yeah, I think only
Let's
10.
switch gears, guys. Let's see. Sorry, because time is running so fast. I see it's already 23 minutes past. Let's talk about.
You talk about the comptroller news, James.
Pardon?
Did you see the U.S. comptroller declared that banks can be validators in networks, can hold crypto, and stablecoin. You didn't see that last week?
Oh, I did. Yeah. Huge news.
That,
This is the bizarre thing, Marty, that you're mentioning. We have, I think, Marty, you may have frozen. Anyway, I'm here.
Go ahead.
But the amount of good news that's coming out. I mean, the news from MicroStrategy this morning, the news last week from the OCC, the SBR. These are really, really big crypto catalysts. All the stuff coming out of Europe too. And then the macro, which basically to anybody with half a brain would signal, get some Bitcoin. The world is going to pot real fast. You need to hedge yourself. There's nothing but goodness out there, but the market's not reacting.
Yeah.
That's how much fear there is.
Absolutely. So I think we need to separate all the positive thing that's happening from the simple, market cycles.
Yeah.
And let's talk about, because the Solana ecosystem has really had a tough time here, both the general downturn and the fact that the pump.fun imploded, basically. The whole meme coin casino stops. The music stopped in the casino. So Solana has had a really rough time, threatening to break key support right now. And the other ecosystem projects, even worse, like good projects like Radium, Jupiter, and so on, have been absolutely slaughtered. What are your thoughts here at this point? Is it could there be more to go, or are we hitting support, or what do you guys think about the Solana ecosystem here?
I mean, my perspective, I mean, I haven't sold any Solana and never will, not for a long time. But, I've documented very clearly what caused this pullback from 300, and it was Binance selling their reserves to chase down the longs just below the range of the previous range there. And that's where we are right now. Just remember, Solana has more bullish things than anywhere. The Seeker phone's coming out. This vote right now to lower inflation is just massive. Like, people have no idea. It could raise the price 3x. Like, it's crazy. We've got Fire Dancer coming out, stablecoin volumes going up 10 billion last month. It's in the big three. It's officially in the big three. And this is how it works. You got to go back to the beginning of the move. Look at where we went to at 300, and they pulled it back 50% of the move. That's what they do. I keep telling people, and they don't believe me until it happens. They took back 50% of the move on good news. I tell people all the time, when there's good news, when there's good narratives in the news, the market makers all dump the price because everyone's going long. When there's bad news, typically they'll pump the price to take out the shorts on the other side. So when the news is this good, we're going to come down. But as far as where we are now, I think we're pretty much around the bottom. 120 was the low number. Now we're going to see that typical Solana roadshow news come out. We haven't had a lot of news. It's just been mostly bad news. Personally, I'm extremely happy about meme coins. Gone. I mean, meme coins, I always said to me, were a liveness test. They were an excellent, live user test of the network, and they were highly successful. Most of the changes we've seen in Solana have to be to support stability and scale have come from meme coin testing. But, as you can see, it got out of control. So the software itself has never been stronger. The actors that use the software, meme coin bring a lot of sketchy actors. And, thankfully they've moved on, and hopefully the regulators will go chase them down and make examples out of them. But I'm extremely happy with Solana. I think the new 0228 vote, which will be finished by this time tomorrow, will go through and lower the inflation of Solana.
We need to talk about that.
Selling pressure off Solana.
Yeah,
that was
Marty.
the last sort of problem with Solana, right?
Yeah.
Inflation. Well, they're solving that too.
But it's funny because
then I think we'll see our roadshow come out. Go ahead.
Yeah, the inflation proposal, it's looking like it will pass, which is incredible. That would take inflation down to 0.86%. And may I remind everybody, the inflation on Bitcoin is 0.85%. So
Yep.
all of a sudden, Solana will become as hard as Bitcoin. Second of all-time high for Solana's 295. It's trading at 120. If we get to anywhere close to a $7.5–10 trillion crypto market cap, Solana's going to 360 plus. So that's a 3x from this level right now today, if the bull market's still on, which I believe it is. Now, what happens? This is the interesting part. What happens if a Solana ETF launches, which it will this year, and inflation is 0.86%? I mean, that's bombastic. It's a tiny size of an asset compared to Ethereum. We could see, and I don't want to ship hopium here, but we could see a very big move just based on those simple numbers. Thoughts?
I agree with you. It's been set up for something quite remarkable. I mean, everything is lining up for a large move. Not hopium either, but from a technical perspective, it's never been better. From an economic perspective, it's never been better.
Yeah,
the team's better. Resnick coming in better. Ethereum's sentiment's never been worse. And if you look at the dominances, guys, we haven't really lost a lot of dominance. Sol is still around 2.45. BNB around 3, which is definitely the most manipulated one. XRP at 4.72. Ethereum is the problem down at, I said 10% was Ethereum's dominance number. They're at 9.37 today.
But if we look at the TVL, the volume across chains, we have had a big drop in Solana volumes over
meme coins
the past period. So now actually a 7-day volume on DEX was 15 billion on Solana and 19 billion on Ethereum. So Ethereum has kind of overtaken here. And clearly, now the question here is how much of that volume was real and how much was like bots trading each other to drive up the volumes on meme coins and so on and so forth. What do you guys think? Was meme coin really that big that it kind of reversed this whole dominance?
I think that, between the meme coin fiasco, which was really started by the Libra thing, right? I think there was a sort of a systematic move against meme coins and the casino of meme coins. Let's put it that way. And together with that, comes negative sentiment, and we're just seeing the results of that. And I think that the Solana Foundation specifically and the Solana people are relieved, because we all know meme coins are a cycle. They started on Ethereum, they went to BNB, now they came to Solana, they went through Sui for a moment, and it never ends well. So me personally, I've never been happier. What I want people to understand is that you take the ability to ICO and these internet capital markets to raise money that we saw with memes and just replace it with quality actors. Replace it with actual companies, with boards and profit strategies and regulation. And the same machine is used in the same way, but instead of meme coins, which represent nothing, have bad issuer with bad incentives and integrity, looking to just extract liquidity, and are now looking to invest and raise value and grow, you see the potential, you see what's coming. So you need to look at the meme thing that happened over the last 9 months and replace the actors and the projects with proper projects and businesses, small businesses, companies, and you get the idea. The software is ready to handle it. That's all we know now. The software is ready to go.
I think one insight that I can offer here.
The theme of today is short-term pain, guys. There's just no way around it. We all saw it coming. Everything. No one is going to hide from the short-term pain. And Solana's no different.
That's for sure.
Go ahead.
I think one key insight here is that it's not that the momentum has gone back to Ethereum. The SOL versus ETH is still following the same channel. That's one
I don't
insight.
think anything's really changed. No, nothing's really changed in that way, in that regard.
So
absolutely.
That's one interesting insight. Okay.
There's one other thing that ties into what we said at the beginning regarding the dollar and rates and everything else. we cannot understate the top use case for crypto is stablecoins.
Yep.
The U.S. government, Scott Bessent, the Treasury, etc. They are all over stablecoins. I got David
All
Sachs
in.
in there explaining how they can save dollar hegemony by stablecoins, by building trust, by building transparency back. And how is the U.S. government going to run global stablecoins? Solana will be a big part of that. Solana do more transactions on USDC. But again, granted, a lot of them are small dollar transactions, like $8, $10, $15 for a lot of the unbanked around the world. But that has the potential to really explode. And we're seeing that with USDC market cap going up as well so far this year. So, well, goodness. And by the way, I misspoke earlier. I said the S&P is over 5% from the highs. It's actually 8.4% off the all-time highs. So if we are going to a 10% correction, we're over halfway there. If we're going to a 20% correction, which is typical of a kind of bear market in traditional stocks, we are nearly halfway there.
And we got a bit of a bounce on the markets, the stock market. Bitcoin's falling back to 81,000.
It's called the DCA pump.
Exactly.
Where's your pump? Bring out your little pump, Marty, your balloon pump.
Welcome to Ask Questions, guys. Let's see what we have. We will have a double top like last cycle, feels the same. The thing is that you can't know. Like now we do indeed have a double top in the chart. So that's a good observation. Here was one top, here was second top, and it becomes a double top when the low between the top is breached, which actually happened here. So right now it is a double top, but it's almost reached the target. So then that pattern is sort of played out. The thing is that you can't really know when at the top, you can't know that it's a top unless you have some insider information. The objective is to try to figure it out as soon as possible afterwards. And of course, it is never easy. It's never easy. And a strategy that some people use, I'm not telling anyone what to do here, but a strategy some people use is to have less exposure when situation is more uncertain and more exposure when it's easy peasy. Let's see what else we have on the questions. What triggered the change in momentum? Is it price, time, or a catalyst? We did talk about it a little bit. Do you want to sum it up, James?
Yeah. First of all, you got to understand the reason for the market falling first, and that is uncertainty, macro, tariffs, the new Trump administration, this crazy stuff happening in Europe, all this type of stuff, Doge. There's going to be there's a lot of uncertainty about what's happening next. I believe unemployment will rise. I believe people don't have money to spend. We're seeing PMI numbers tanking, etc. The macro is just horrible. We've been talking about that for a long time. It is just nasty out there. The market needs to see something break and that so-called reset before it can get bullish again. And I don't see that. We're seeing so much good news that's falling on deaf ears. Nobody's responding. Like the MicroStrategy news today, it's basically Saylor saying, I'm going to buy up the next 1.5 years of Bitcoin supply. No reaction. In fact, it goes down. Like
yeah, down 10%.
Yeah,
I just saw.
In any other market, that would be just huge news. The U.S. government is kind of changing things. It's breaking things to make that omelet. And I do believe until all of that is passed, and that could take another month or so, we could chop sideways here. There could be some nasty days where market makers jump on it and push us down further. We just maybe saw some of that happening right now. But then the buyers step in. Watch the Bitfinex whale. Watch other whales. Watch what they're doing. They're not afraid. When they see, like a lot of whales are buying sub 90K, and when they see sub 80K, they step in. And you can see it in the big buys as well. So we need the uncertainty to clear. That will be the catalyst. And then people will factor in all the good news right now.
Yeah, definitely. When price moves up, then suddenly there's all the explanations for all the, then the kind of the narrative follows the price rather than the other way around.
Yep, price makes narrative. Remember what I always say, price makes narrative. There's a million reasons why it goes up and a million reasons why it goes down. I think this is a great time for new buyers. I'm extremely happy for new buyers. I mean, anybody coming into crypto now, I'm just so happy for you. Here's your time. Go in, people. Buy your coins.
It's better to buy so much BTC.
Yep.
That won't be good. Yeah, definitely, it will be very good. That's why we discussed before if he will actually pull it off. If Saylor will come in and buy 21 Bitcoin for $21 billion, that will move the price. Absolutely. So, yeah, it's very good if it happens. Welcome to ask questions, guys.
Yeah,
Are you buying SOL here?
Just for perspective as well, people think Michael Saylor buying all the Bitcoin's bad. No, it makes the asset harder, and he's not going to sell it, and he'll be buying the top forever. But the ETFs own about 1.32 million Bitcoin. Saylor has under 500,000. So if you're worried about Saylor, you should actually be worried about the ETFs because they hold a lot more Bitcoin.
Yeah. I remember we talked about it, what was it, a year ago or something like that, when some people said that, there won't be any manipulation now when the institutions have entered. No, guys, like they are the professional manipulators. They are like the OG manipulators that were manipulating markets 100 years ago before Bitcoin existed. So that's going to remain.
And by the way, also the other thing is when you see a lot of Bitcoin being drawn from exchanges, being drawn into ETFs and being drawn into MicroStrategy, the asset becomes scarcer and harder, and it actually is technically easier to manipulate as well. So bear that in mind too.
Here's a good question. What about Tesla? Because James, you have always had great insights there. We had this beautiful breakout, which has more or less completely retraced. Is Tesla dead, or what is happening?
No, Tesla gets stronger every single day. In fact, I've been in Tesla since 2017. What you're seeing here is a reaction to Doge and the global animosity towards Elon Musk. We just found out as well over the last week that Act Blue, which is a Soros-funded organization, is funding attacks on Tesla dealership and all that type of stuff. It's just a crazy world out there. But I see this as the most beautiful buying opportunity because my plan was always to rotate out of crypto into Tesla, which I'm doing gradually as well. So yeah, it's crazy. Again, this is the price it was at in 2020. And in 2020, it didn't even have a Model Y. There was no Optimus. The Megapack business was tiny. There's no Cybertrucks, no 48-volt architecture. There was no AI. There was no Colossus. I mean, it's just a very different bowl of wax today. And also, you have to see the synergy within the Elon Industries as well, which is huge. But very few people get it. It's not dead. It is this is the crazy thing that people need to understand. If you get anything from today's video, is when prices of really good assets get completely oversold, your return on those assets, if you get in when they are oversold, is far higher than when you buy at the top. So it's like I always say, billions are made in the bear. Same thing right now. These are crazy opportunities. Just look at Tesla 2020, you look at it today. It is a vastly different enterprise. So nope, not dead at all.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit hard to understand all the anger against Elon.
Tesla's just another example. Everything that we're talking about is actually just getting better. The underlying software, the companies, the products, the regulation, it's all getting better. The only thing that's weakening is the macro. And this is what happens. Don't fight the Fed. A rising tide affects all boats. The tide is going down, people. All the boats drop together. That's perfectly fine. Yep. That's either when you seize your entries, lower your prices, get into these assets for the first time, and that's when the rich people get made, is when you buy the bottoms. So you should be very happy. This is a great day. I mean, to me, these are great days. This is where I actually go, wow, I can buy more SUI, potentially at $2 again. I don't think that would happen. Let's go. Like, these are opportunities, okay? I want you to think. I know the people in leverage trading got massacred, as they always do. And maybe it's time for them to learn their lesson. Leverage trading, 99.9% of people lose everything. Be very, very careful with leverage trading. These markets are made.
Someone asked if I had shorted here. No, I have not shorted anything.
Well, the shorts are doing great right now, but their day will come too.
X is indeed down.
Soon.
Yeah, that has been an issue.
X is working in the United States, by the way, so I haven't had a problem. I think it's a regional outage, perhaps.
I think so too. Yeah, I saw that it was in the regional.
My X doesn't work at all.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah. So I think one key question maybe that we could think about is that the next Fed meeting on interest rates is March 18 to 19. It's a little over a week.
Yep.
What do you guys think? Do you think they will take some action here already, lower rates?
3% chance they won't. Or 3% chance of a cut. Sorry, 97% chance they won't as well.
Yeah.
People are looking for some hopium. I don't know if you can see that, but I saw somebody posted that on Raoul's post right now about liquidity. Keep an eye on liquidity, everybody. That's going to be big.
Hang on,
global liquidity trying to break that previous top from September 27th. Global liquidity is like knocking on the door. I think if it breaks out there, we'll see a nice move up. Central bank balance sheets also hovering around. We want those to come down more to end quantitative tightening. Everything is happening as we thought it would. Short-term pain, guys. Opportunities knock. Avoid leverage, and you'll be fine. You'll be just fine. Don't panic.
Yeah. I didn't expect the support to break here in Bitcoin, but actually in hindsight, it's maybe easier to rationalize with the rejection of the stocks and the fact that Bitcoin has actually mostly just been following the stocks. But yeah, I didn't short this or make any money out of this. So I think one thing that I find helpful for myself, I think very few people have been making money in this period. So people watching, if you haven't, don't beat yourself up. It's been a very difficult point in the market. I think the objective here is to lose as little as possible. Don't get, like Marty says, don't get liquidated here. Don't try to increase leverage to make it all back, because frequently that ends in that you get liquidated and you don't have any money left. So when it turns around, you're no longer on the boat. So that's a common mistake, that you want to try to revenge trade it with higher leverage, and that's very risky. It's hard to keep your mind cool even without leverage when you see.
The problem also, CTO, the problem is that when people get liquidated, then they take it out on crypto. So when you look at your timeline and see so many angry people talking for the end of the world, just understand it's because they made bad decisions and they lost their money. Now they take it out on crypto when they were so highly leveraged, or they were playing meme coins. Like, just try and eliminate those people from your timeline. Okay, stick to the facts, the technology, the regulations. Everything is actually blossoming. The prices are all based on US dollar, and the US dollar is going through some crazy times. Call it some of the craziest times in a while, since 2008. The conditions are just like that. Something very well may break. We may see a stock market crash, but they don't last long. They come straight back up. So if you're in spot and you hold the assets, it doesn't affect you. Leverage traders get hurt the most. Just be careful of leverage.
I mean, it's a good point. If we look at the previous crashes, like the COVID crash down here, it was about 30% in the S&P 500. Here from January 2022, sorry, I should be on the actual. It was 35% on SPX, and here in 2022, it was 26% from top to bottom. And right now, we are actually only down 8%. So I think it's good to have some readiness to see if this scenario plays out. It might not. We might turn back tomorrow. But someone pointed this out here. I have been kind of concerned about this. We talked about this some shows before, that Warren Buffett, he has like a record-breaking high share of cash since some time.
Right.
And, he's old, but he's not dumb. So
Warren Buffett and James.
Well, the interesting thing about Warren Buffett, because I do watch what he does very carefully, he did the exact same thing in, I think it was, may get me wrong here on the years, 2013, 2014, or 2015, that time frame. And he sat on the cash way too long. And by the time he deployed, then the market crashed. So he is a legend, but he's not as good as he used to be. Now, if he comes in right now and buys like a truckload of Tesla at $220 and Tesla goes to 2,700, or IBIT or something, then he will be a genius. But he needs to get out of his banks and insurance companies and Coca-Cola and crap like that. He needs to just get a taste of disruption, and then he will cement he's a legend anyway, it doesn't matter, but that would be one last big hurrah, and I'd love to see him do something like that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
But timing is everything. Allocations are everything. Again, the two most important things in markets.
Yeah, and not get liquidated. I feel that most people do a very common mistake. They kind of get emotional. They want to make the money back. They start revenge trading. They increase the liquidation, and then boom, they're gone. And it's easy to do that. You can make money for 5 years straight, and then you lose it all on like 3 days. So don't go there, guys. It's a risky point in the market. No one knows for sure where the market is going tomorrow. And don't think that you know it for sure and bet everything on one bet. That would be my suggestion. Anyway, closing thoughts. Marty, do you want to start? Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, the sentiment is bad, but remember, like I said, most of that bad sentiment is from people that have lost money and are not happy, looking for things to blame. But we're still above the Trump pump. We're still above November 4th. If Donald Trump wasn't so bullish and hadn't won, and we've gone through the biggest bullish narratives of all time, we'd still be around exactly where we are now. We would have come up from 68 and probably been around 80. So nothing's really changed. Solana was at 150. We're at 120. We're doing a pullback on Solana. A lot of things have happened since then, and obviously everyone's like disappointed. Why didn't I sell the top? Like James over here.
I didn't sell.
I you know what I mean?
Like, yeah.
Why didn't I know? Why didn't I know it was going to be a Donald Trump pump? I should have sold the top. Don't feel despondent. This is my fourth cycle. This happens. It's part of investing. Just hold, spot, believe, be convicted, and wait for QE. It's coming. Nobody has money right now. There's no money in the system. The banks don't have money. The pension funds don't have money. They need money. Money's coming. But the Fed will wait till the last possible moment before announcing that. And this is when everybody sells who needs to sell. This is when the big gobbling whales and cash holders are salivating, waiting to buy your assets. This is it. We're at it. We've been waiting for it, and we're here. So on one hand, be happy we're here. On the other hand, be optimistic, because when we rebound out of this dip, especially on crypto, we have the most pro-crypto government in history. We have people with brains, thought, critical thinking, plans that are going to, actually rubber stamp our asset class. So the sky is literally the limit. So be optimistic. If you lost money, you lost money. Move on. Okay? Learn from your mistakes. If you're new to crypto, you're getting a chance. Okay? This is your chance. Don't fall for the fear. Take advantage of the lows. And guys, be optimistic, please. The world hasn't really changed. Okay? You weren't going to sell probably anyway. So your value goes up, it comes down. It's like your house. You weren't going to sell the top anyway. It just feels bad. It's a bad feeling. Oh, Don't take it on yourselves. We're all in the same boat. The tide is rising. We're all in this together. Just stay the course. Don't use leverage, please. Remember, if you're short right now and you're up a lot, take profit. Because when the short squeeze comes, you're going to lose all your money, and then prices will be high. You can't buy the bottom. You're literally going to be screwed. If you were in long and you got liquidated, you're at the bottom. These are great times to get into spot positions. Start again if you lost everything. I know it's hard, but that's how the game works. I've done it many times. Those are my closing shorts.
James, do you want to do some wrap up?
Yeah, everything is like, again, looking at liquidity and money supply, got that 12-week lag. We're more than halfway through that. I think 4 to 6 weeks from now, things will be a lot better. You just need to ride through the storm. Imagine you're in a little boat in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific, and a big storm is hitting you. Just, take the canvas down and sit tight. Just looking at actually Ethereum is at November 2023 levels. It's like, wow, that is brutal right there. And I know Vitalik was tweeting up a storm earlier today, talking about L2s and other stuff. I didn't dig into it, but that is pretty horrific. So just be grateful if you watch this show, you don't own any Ethereum or layer 2s, and you haven't done so for many years. And that's the reason. But it just shows you how brutal this is. Like the biggest non-Bitcoin crypto, other than Binance Fully Diluted or whatever else, is getting absolutely hammered right now. But this is also a part of your era digitalis, CTO. Old tech doesn't cut it. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. It always feels like, oh, this thing is so great, it can never get replaced because of the ecosystem and this and that and
the Lindy effect,
overall greatness.
Yeah.
But it can, and then afterwards it feels always so obvious that it would happen because the new thing was obviously better and so on and so forth. So, yeah, that's always the case, and that will be the thing next time too. Like no matter how great it is, can still get replaced. So we have to stay on our toes. And yeah, I think summary from my side is that it's very clear that Bitcoin is simply following the stock market at this point. Is not behaving like gold; it's behaving like a speculative asset, and the stock market is brutally down. We discussed some theories if we believe in manipulation of this market related to the refinancing of debt and so on and so forth. So I think there is some merit to that. And I will follow stock market closely because I think that would be our best clue to where Bitcoin goes. Together with Saylor's monstrously big $21 billion Bitcoin buy ambition that we should definitely follow, see how it goes, see if he can pull it off. And both of you think he will. That is massive. That will move the market if it does.
Yeah, what people fail to realize is there's a lot of money in the world, and a lot of that money needs a safe place where it gets a safe return. So they're going to sell $21 billion of the Stark stock, and that will be used to backstop Bitcoin. That's it. So
yeah. It's exciting times, and stay in the game, guys. Don't get liquidated. Live to play another day, another week, and see you all on Monday next week. I can't recall which channel we are on.
We're on all the channels all the time, so
exactly,
thank you. And good luck to Mando. Mando's going through a very special event, which will keep everybody thoughts with Mando and his family. Good things are happening. Thank you, CTO. Great job. Thank you, Marty. Have a great week.
Guys. I was an hour behind. I literally just came from bed because of the daylight saving. So sorry if I was a little bit out of it.
I need one of those electric shockers to buzz in the morning virtually.
Okay, guys. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Cheers.
See you in a week.
Well, we'll see you next week.
Yes, bye. I have pressed